Now, as part of this Akuapem Poloo matter, there's a lesson that is in there that we need to learn. It's a very important lesson. You will see that a law has been passed in Ghana. It is called the Cyber Security Act. It is Act 1038, 1038. It's a very important law, passed in 2020. And it's very important because of the kinds of things that was happening. You know what was happening in Ghana and sometimes other places? Relationship between a man and a woman goes bad. I'm told that the men are most guilty of it. But the relationship between a man and a woman goes bad. And then if it's the man who is experiencing sour grapes, he takes photographs of the lady. I mean, photographs that have been taken earlier during their good and better times. And he splashes it on social media. Some are naked, half naked, voice and all of that. People were doing that. And it was terrible. I understand the men are more guilty of that than the women, but I don't know. But they said the men are more guilty, you know. So the relationship goes bad between a man and a woman, and then they take the photographs and they put on the social media trying to embarrass, to disgrace and all that. So we looked at it, and Parliament passed the Cyber Security Offences Act, I believe. It's 1038. It's related to Akuapem Poloo. So I want to take this opportunity to educate us on that. Let's look at section 62 of that, the first one. So it's going to come on the screen now. Now that's where it is. Section 62 is indecent image or photograph of a child. This one deals with a child. 62:1 says, a person shall not, A, take or permit to be taken an indecent image or photograph of a child. It applies to Poloo, but that's not what she was charged for. My suspicion is that at the time she was charged, this law was not in place yet, because the law is a 2020 law. We're in April 2021, so this is very recent. Indecent image, I believe Parliament passed this law just in the final sitting after the election. That's when this law was passed. Indecent image or photograph of a child. Section 62 of Act 1038. A person shall not take or permit to be taken an indecent image or photograph of a child. Let's go to the next one, 62:7. This is the most important one. Non-consensual sharing of intimate photographs. Now let's read this carefully. A person shall not, with intent to cause serious emotional distress, intentionally distribute or intentionally cause another person to distribute the intimate image or prohibited visual recording of another identifiable person without the consent of the person depicted in the intimate image and in respect of which there was a reasonable expectation of privacy, both at the time of the creation of the image or visual recording and at the time the offense was committed. Let's take it again. So a person, let's call him ex-boyfriend. A person, ex-boyfriend. So an ex-boyfriend with intent to cause emotional distress to the ex-girlfriend intentionally distributes or intentionally cause another person to distribute. You see, because sometimes they won't do it themselves. They will send it to somebody else, actually post it, let's embarrass her. She thinks, post it, you know. And they do that. So the law has catered for that. And we have to applaud Parliament for that. It's a very progressive law in these days of cyber situations. What did I get? It says, cause another person to distribute the intimate image or prohibited visual recording of another identifiable person without the consent of the person depicted in the intimate image. So you publish the intimate image of Abena Mansa, your ex-girlfriend, at a time when you went with her to the beach and you took some half-naked photographs and all that for your personal consumption, the two of you. The relationship goes bad and then you send it to some journalist at somewhere and say publish it, put it in the newspaper or something like that. You're going to go to jail in Ghana. People must be careful about that. And it happens all the time because people get angry about relationship breakups, and this law was made for you. You're going to go to jail if you do that. Okay, so I hope it's not the men who are guilty, but I'm hearing people are sending me texts that the men are very guilty of that. Okay, when you do it without the consent of the person depicted in the video, you're going to jail. So we have to note that all people who are watching, journalists, go and look for it. Cyber Security Act 1038, it prohibits the publication of another person's image if there is reasonable belief that the person did not intend for this to be published. So for instance, I go to the beach, I go and play football, I go and play basketball, I raise my hand and I take a photograph and I put on Instagram. That's one. there is a reasonable intention that I wanted it to go public. So if you take that from my Instagram page and you publish it somewhere else, I will not be able to see you. But where there's a private intimacy, something, there's a selfie we take together, and then later on something happens and you say, okay, I'll teach him a lesson. I'll put everything about his body out there for people to see so that I'll embarrass her. You're in trouble. You're going to go to jail. Ghana has become a very progressive country. Okay, thanks to Parliament. This was the 7th Parliament that passed this law. Punishment for the cybersecurity. A person who contravenes Section 1 commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a term of imprisonment not less than 1 year and not more than 3 years. So that's for the cybersecurity. You publish your girlfriend's ex-photograph. Yes, you go in for up to 3 years. Yeah, not less than 1 year, at least 1 year and not more than 3 years. Very progressive law. Let's move on. The meaning of emotional distress, which is the point about the cybersecurity thing, we are still on that one. There was a definition of emotional distress when you are publishing it to cause emotional distress. It says here, let's put it on. It says, for the purpose of this section, serious emotional distress includes any intentional conduct that results in mental reactions such as fright, nervousness, grief, anxiety, worry, mortification, shock, humiliation, indignity, as well as physical pain. When you do these things, publish another person's photograph, an ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, and the law finds that this was intended to cause emotional distress, it was intended to cause nervousness, grief, anxiety, worry, mortification, you go to prison for up to 3 years. Okay.